Hotep, hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, and historian. So it is Friday, February 7th, 2020, and we're live. Hope everybody's doing well. So share this broadcast on your Facebook pages and YouTube. Invite your friends to tune in as well. So I want to let you all know that I will be speaking at Nandi's Knowledge Cafe Saturday, February 8th, 2020, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. in Highland Park, Michigan, celebrating African American History Month. So we know that this is the month of February, and some people know about the history of African American History Month, but most people don't. So I will be presenting on Black Migration 1619 to 2019. And I'll deal with some of the origins of African American History Month as well. And then I'll also deal with this year's annual theme for African American History Month, which is African Americans and the Vote, African Americans and the Vote. All right, how's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast. And then African American business owners, you can post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast, and email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with us. The current promotion is buy 1 month, get 2 months free. So there's an annual theme each year for African American History Month, which used to be called Black History Month. And then started out as Negro History Week, second week in February of 1926. So it's co-founded by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Well, it's founded by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who co-founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, September 9th, 1915 in Chicago. And contrary to popular belief, this monthly cultural celebration was never designed to be the only time of the year we study our history. So one of the things I do in my presentations for African American History Month is deal with the origins of this celebration. And one of the mistakes that we make is oftentimes each February, we don't have a annual theme that we are celebrating or studying. So a lot of these celebrations that we attend, we just recycle the same 15 to 20 sanitized Negroes every year. Or we'll deal with people who, are designed to be non-threatening, or they're presented in a way that is non-threatening. And African American History Month was never designed to be like that. Okay, so what I'm going to present on, and we'll flip over here, we have it at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll deal with Black Migration 1619 to 2019, African Americans and the Vote, the 150th anniversary of the 15th Amendment. It's the sesquicentennial of the 15th Amendment of 1870. And we'll deal with how African American History Month reconnects us to our history and culture. Okay, so you can visit our website, africanhistorynetwork.com. It's a short video I did this past Sunday on the African History Network show that discusses this as well. All right, so visit our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com, and you'll find this information there. You can also order my DVD lectures there at our website, also africanhistorynetwork.com. We have the Black Migration 1619 to 2019 DVD, 6 DVD bundle pack, and we have it that on digital download as well. And then we also have my 15 DVD bundle pack, the Black Michael Imhotep Black History Month 15 DVD bundle pack also. That's on sale. $100 is like a $250 value, something like that. All right, so Nandi's Knowledge Cafe is located at 71 Oakman Avenue in Highland Park, Michigan. Okay, this is a free event. Donations accepted Saturday, February 8th, 2020, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. And when we talk about Black Migrations was the 2019 annual theme for African American History Month. The reason why there's an annual theme is to give purpose and direction to this monthly cultural celebration, to give purpose and direction, reflect on the past, look forward to the future. And Dr. Carter G. Woodson was an educator. So he taught in high school, he taught at college level. He was born 10 years after slavery ended. He was born in 1875 in New Canton County, Virginia. He was born to former slaves. He doesn't go to formal school till he's about 20 years old. He ends up getting a PhD in American history from Harvard University in 1912. So he was the second African American to get a PhD from Harvard, the first African American of African slave descent to get a PhD from Harvard, because Dr. W.B. Du Bois, who got his PhD from Harvard in 1895, he was born to free parents. But teaching in the high schools, teaching at the college level, Dr. Woodson realized that our people didn't know their history, and our children didn't know their history. Okay, so he co-founds the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, September 9th, 1915, in Chicago, after attending a 3-week symposium in Chicago that commemorated and celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Civil War ending and the 4 million enslaved Africans being set free, because of the 13th Amendment, Civil War ending, and then the 13th Amendment, December 1865. So at this 3-week symposium, they have all types of exhibits and lectures and things like this that take place, and is documenting the progress of African Americans since slavery ends in 1865. So he gets the idea to have an organization that researches, chronicles, documents, and preserves the accomplishments and achievements of African Americans, but not just African people in this country, but also throughout the diaspora and on the continent of Africa as well. So in 1926, he creates this monthly cultural celebration for the second week in February, which started out as Negro History Week. And Dr. Woodson felt that it was a waste of time to only teach our history to children 1 week out of the year, and the other 35, 36 weeks out of the year to studying white history. Okay, he felt that what he said was that 1 week out of the year should be the time that our children show us what they have been learning all year round. He said that 1 week out of the year should be the period of time that our children show us what they have been learning all year round. So oftentimes the way we celebrate this is backwards. We think that our history, we think that African American History Month is designed to be the only time of the year we study our history or celebrate our history. And that's not true. We do that all year long. That's a specific time of the year where we reflect on the future, reflect on the past, plan for the future, et cetera. But you have a specific theme as well, which gives you structure. So there's been an annual theme going back to 1928. Okay, and if you go to ASALH's website, asala.org, asalh.org, they have the theme there. So when we look at Black migrations, that dealt with not just the forced migration during slavery, and in this country, going back to 1619 in Virginia, or prior to that, 93 years before that, 1526, in South Carolina, the territory that today is called South Carolina, where the Spanish were taking Africans into South Carolina in 1526. Okay, but in 1619, one of the things that I deal with in my presentations is that the whole way slavery evolves in this country, the history of slavery evolves in this country, is totally different than the way we think it evolved. Because August 20th, 1619, when those 29 Africans are exchanged for food and supplies and water, who are on the White Line slave ship, which is an English slave ship. It wasn't a Dutch ship, it was an English pirate ship. At this point in time, 1619, codified slave laws don't exist in any of the 13 colonies. The first colony to have codified slave laws would be Massachusetts in 1641. They come to Virginia 1661, and they come to the various colonies at different periods of time. It wasn't It wasn't that this system hit all the colonies at the same time. No, it evolves. So our whole understanding of how this happens is grossly inaccurate. So these will be some of the things that I deal with in my presentation. How's everybody doing? Tammy, Debbie, Gunja, Tammy, Gunjaman. Okay, so I will be speaking at Nandi's Knowledge Cafe, Saturday, February 8th, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. February 8th, 2020, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Nandi's Knowledge Cafe is located at 71 Oakman Avenue, 71 Oakman Avenue in Highland Park, Michigan. Highland Park is an enclave of Detroit, just as Lesotho is an enclave of South Africa. Lesotho is a country within South Africa. So when we look at the movie Black Panther and the warriors that patrol the border of Wakanda wear these blankets that are infused with vibranium. And these blankets have technology in them because of the vibranium. The blankets have symbols on them, and the blankets come from the Lesotho people. Well, they come from the Basotho people of the country of Lesotho. Lesotho is an enclave of South Africa, is a country within a country, just as Highland Park is an enclave of Detroit. So I'll be in Highland Park, Michigan. All right. So we'll talk some about Black migration, 1619 to 2019. We'll talk some about the 1619 project. We'll deal with some of the origins of slavery in this country, things like this, misunderstandings about it. And then also, you know, when we deal with the history of slavery in this country, we have to also deal with the history of the Moors in Europe, because the transatlantic slave trade is really just a continuation of the wars and the conflict between the African Moors and Europeans in Europe. And the Moors were in England as well. And we know the Anglos and the Saxons, who were two groups of Germanic people, also called barbarians, come to this land in 1607, set up colonies in this land in 1607, starting with Virginia. So we'll talk some about that. We'll deal with the Great Migration of 1915 and 1915 and 1970. The Great Migration is going to totally change this country. You have 6 million Africans, African Americans migrating from the South up north and out west. And they're going into Detroit, Michigan, and Gary, Indiana, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, et cetera. It's going to totally change this country. Yeah, but we'll also deal with the 15th Amendment of 1870. So this year, 2020, is the 150th anniversary of the passing of the 15th Amendment of 1870, which gave African American men the right to vote. This was during Reconstruction. So Reconstruction is from 1865 to 1877. And what we see now, because of Jim Crow laws that are going to be instituted in southern states, is going to suppress the African American vote. They're going to institute poll taxes and literacy tests. We're subjected to being fired from our jobs or fired from the farms that we work on if we're tenant farmers, okay, or sharecroppers, like in the case of Fannie Lou Hamer. She was the youngest of 20 children in Mississippi, and her whole family worked on a plantation. And when she registered to vote, she was fired from the plantation that her family worked on, okay? So this is going to, the fight to remove these obstacles to voting in the South is going to lead to the 1965 Voting Rights Act, to strengthen the 15th Amendment and remove the obstacles in the way of us registering to vote and to vote. But we see now that we see a huge attack on the right to vote and the ability to vote for African Americans. Okay, so I'm going to deal with all that in my presentation Saturday, February 8th, 2020, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at Nandi's Knowledge Cafe, located at 71 Oakman Avenue in Highland Park, Michigan. It's a free event, donations accepted. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have information at our website dealing with this as well. and I'll have my DVD lectures on sale there also. We look at, there was an article that I saw from NBCnews.com, because I've been talking about this, and we see with the 2020 election taking place, we're going to see a continued attack on trying to suppress the African-American vote. You're going to have Russian intervention again. You're going to have Republicans trying to suppress our vote also. But then if we look at this article from February 3rd, 2020, from NBC News, tidal wave of voter suppression washes over states, lawyer says. Tidal wave of voter suppression washes over states, lawyer says. Let's turn on the screen share, because this is important, because if our vote didn't matter, why do Republicans work so hard to suppress our vote? And this is why understanding history and law, all this intersects. Understanding the need for the 15th Amendment of 1870, understanding things like the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871, okay, passed by Congress to tamp down the attacks of the Ku Klux Klan, understanding the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and then Shelby County versus Holder, U.S. Supreme Court case of 2013, which strikes down, which really weakens Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, okay? But if we look at this article, tidal wave of voter suppression washes over states, lawyer says. They can do it electronically. They can do it digitally, and in ways we never thought about when I was coming along, said Representative James Clyburn, Democrat from South Carolina. Well, if we look quickly here at this article, and I'll post the link, and we're going to get into some of this in my presentation Saturday. In Texas, officials in mostly white Waller County, citing cost concerns, announced that they would not make any early voting site available on the campus of a historically black university. Then the state passed a law effectively requiring other communities to take similar action. A Tennessee law threatens third-party groups that register citizens to vote with criminal penalties if they make mistakes on forms or the forms arrive incomplete. The state's governor, a Republican, said the law will make election fairer. And in Florida, state lawmakers overrode the results of a ballot initiative restoring voting rights to felons who have completed their sentences. Lawmakers who opposed the initiative insisted it was up to them to define what constitutes a completed sentence. States across the country have, in the wake of the Supreme Court's 2013 decision striking down part of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, moved swiftly and repeatedly to reshape almost every element of voting. So people don't understand what happened, okay? And I'm gonna break this down in my the presentation on Saturday. We'll get into some of this, because all this ties into history. If you don't understand the significance of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, and people think that when they renew the Voting Rights Act, it's renewing our right to vote. It's not renewing our right to vote. What it's doing is renewing the protections that were put in place, because those southern states that had a history of disenfranchising African Americans and putting obstacles in the way of us voting, if they wanted to make any changes to polling locations, they want to make any changes to how many weekends you can do souls to the poll voting, where people go vote, especially African Americans go vote on Sunday after church. If you wanted to make any changes to the number of days you can do early voting, they had to get clearance. They had to get approval from a federal judge to make any changes. Shelby County versus Holder, U.S. Supreme Court case, struck that down. It removed that requirement. Immediately after that took place, many of these southern states started instituting new voter ID laws. We don't understand what happened. And I speak across the country, and I ask people about Shelby County versus Holder, and 99% of the people look at me like I'm crazy. They don't know what I'm talking about. Shelby County versus Holder directly impacted the 2016 presidential election, because In 2016, that was the first presidential election in 50 years where you didn't have the full protection of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. So all this ties into history and law. And politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. All this intersects and interconnects. Economic empowerment is important. That's part of that three-sided pyramid that Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor James Small, two of my teachers, teach us about when I use it in my presentations. The foundation is African history and culture. It gives us our VIPs, our values, our interests, and our principles. One side of the pyramid is economic empowerment. The other side of the pyramid is political empowerment. We don't understand politics. We don't understand how these laws impact us and how these policies impact us. So we don't understand how to engage with them and how to defend ourselves. So when I deal with 6 principles of political self-defense, I have a whole entire lecture. 6 principles of political self-defense, understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans. This is what I'm talking about. We don't understand how to perceive the threats, so we don't understand how to defend against them and how to fight back against them, how to protect ourselves from them. So Saturday, February 8th, 2020, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Black Migration, 1619 to 2019, African Americans and the Vote. We'll deal with the 150th anniversary of the 15th Amendment. The 15th Amendment is the sesquicentennial. I've been practicing saying that word. And we'll do a reconnecting how African American History Month, Black History Month, reconnects us to our history and culture. Nandi's Knowledge Cafe, 71 Oakman Avenue, Highland Park, Michigan. Free event, donations accepted. We see Dr. Carter G. Woodson here. So of course we'll be honoring Dr. Carter G. Woodson as well. When I do my presentations on African American History Month, we do that definitely because he's the one that created it. A lot of people don't know this. And then in my presentations, I talk about this book here, Carter G. Woodson in Washington, D.C. Carter G. Woodson in Washington, D.C., the father of Black history. This was the man right here, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, okay? So we have to study him. And I've been to a lot of African American History Month celebrations. They don't even mention Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Don't mention the annual theme, anything like that. I'm like, what are y'all doing? You're just talking about a bunch of runaway slaves or something. I mean, what the, you know, you're talking about the first Negro to do this, first Negro to do that, you know. So unfortunately, a lot of people mean well, but a lot of times they just focus on African Americans who invented something to make white people's lives easier or something like that. And that's not the purpose of this. No, this is very strategic. And one of the things Dr. Carter G. Woodson wanted to do was to focus on those unsung African American heroes and to focus on movements and the conditions that created the heroes, okay? But he didn't just want to focus on the names everybody knew. He wanted to understand the migrations of people, the movements of people, understand a chronology of history also, okay? And one of the biggest misconceptions is that African American History Month wasn't designed just to study the history and accomplishments and achievements of African Americans in this country, but also in the Caribbean, on the continent of Africa and throughout the diaspora. So when we look at this year's theme, and how's everybody doing? Let's see here, who we have here. And also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show on PayPal, or we have Cash App now, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, okay? And also at our website, just click on the yellow donate button. You can set up for a recurring donation if you like as well. African American business owners, email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with us. And let me post a link here because I talked about the Black History Month DVD bundle pack that we have, but I'll post a link here. And then we're gonna, if you want that in digital download format, let me know also. But this year's theme for 2020 is African Americans and the Vote, African Americans and the Vote, since this is the 150th anniversary of the 15th Amendment. So the year 2020 marks the centennial of the 19th Amendment and the culmination of the women's suffrage movement. The year 2020 also marks the sesquicentennial of the 15th Amendment of 1870 and the right of African American men to the ballot, the right of African American men to vote after the Civil War. So Civil War is 1861 to 1865. So 2020 is the 100th year anniversary of the 19th Amendment, okay, which gave women the right to vote, and the 150th anniversary of the 15th Amendment of 1870, which gave African American men the right to vote. The theme, African Americans and the vote, speaks therefore to the ongoing struggle on the part of African American men and women for the right to vote. This theme has a rich and long history, which begins at the turn of the 19th century, beginning of the 1800s, in the era of the early republic, with the state's passage of laws that democratized the vote for white men while disenfranchising free Black men. Thus, even before the Civil War, African American men petitioned their legislatures and the US Congress seeking to be recognized as voters. Tensions between abolitionists and women suffragists, women fighting for the right for women to vote, first surfaced in the aftermath of the Civil War, while African American disenfranchisement laws in the late 19th and early 20th centuries undermined the guarantees in the 14th and 15th Amendment. Okay, 14th Amendment giving citizenship to African Americans in 1868, 15th Amendment, 1870, giving African American men the right to vote. 14th and 15th Amendments for the great majority of the Southern African Americans until the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The important contribution of African American suffragists occurred not only within the larger women's movement, but within the larger African American voting rights movement. Through voting rights campaigns and legal lawsuits from the turn of the 20th century to the mid 1960s, African Americans made their voices heard as to the importance of the vote. Indeed, the fight for African American voting rights continues in the courts today. So when Trump's first Attorney General, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III, who was from Alabama, and cheered the gutting of the 1965 Voting Rights Act with Shelby County versus Holder, U.S. Supreme Court case. When he became Attorney General, one of the first things he did was back out of the lawsuit that President Barack Obama's Department of Justice had against the state of Texas because of the voter suppression that was taking place in Texas. He backed out of that lawsuit because this Trump administration is totally reversing the accomplishments and what President Obama did. So Jeff Sessions said that they were backing away from investigating the patterns and practices of police departments. They were not going to enter into any more consent decrees with police departments. He tried to back out of the consent decrees that the Obama Department of Justice entered into with the Chicago Police Department and the Baltimore Police Department. The federal judge would not let the Trump Department of Justice do that. But also, they are silent on voter suppression. They're silent on voter suppression, okay? We don't understand the damage that's being done because a lot of people are just looking at one person. They're looking at this fool, Trump, who is insane and getting worse day by day, okay? He is in mental decline. He is insane and getting worse day by day. And if you looked at the number of lies he was telling on average per day in the first year, he's telling a lot more per day now, okay? He's getting worse day by day. He's more dangerous as well. This is why he has to be voted out of office. So we don't understand how important the U.S. Senate is, and we don't really understand how important the president is when it comes to executive orders. But the president nominates the Attorney General, Secretary of Education, Energy Secretary, Secretary of Defense, all these things. So we don't understand what Trump has reversed that President Obama had in place. And then the president also nominates federal judges. So there've been actually 191 federal judges that Trump has nominated that have been confirmed through the U.S. Senate, 191. Senator Mitch McConnell just announced that they're going to push through another 5 in the next few days, okay, in the Senate. So Trump has nominated and gotten confirmed 1/4 of the federal judges, and these are lifetime appointments. They're nominating very young, ultra-conservative white males, the overwhelming majority of them white males. Many of them are anti-civil rights. When they're asked questions about whether or not Brown versus Board of Education was decided correctly by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1954, many of them don't want to answer that question because he's nominating people who are anti-civil rights. So what they want to do is, all of this is connected. The fear of the Browning of America, the fear of the year 2043, controlling the courts, the U.S. Supreme Court and the federal courts for the next 30, 35, 40 years, because all these are lifetime appointments, okay? All these are lifetime appointments. This is the game that Republicans are playing. They know they have a declining population in the Republican Party. And also, if we look at the memo we look at the press release from the U.S. Census Bureau, June of 2018, it talked about how white people have a negative birth rate in 26 states out of 50. And 2 years before that, it was 17 states out of 50. So the year 2043 is projected by the U.S. Census Bureau and demographers that white people will no longer be the majority population in this country. You have some people who fear that. Not all white people fear that, but a lot of them do. What Republicans are doing is, because they see that they have a declining population in the Republican Party. Republican Party is largely getting older, and the party's getting smaller. They're not going to win as far as population. So what they want to do is to suppress the vote of African Americans, Hispanics, things like this, college students, white and African American college students, because even white college students tend to vote more for Democrats. But also what they want to do is control the federal courts, control the federal courts for the next 30, 35, 40 years. So these nominations are lifetime appointments to the federal bench and U.S. Supreme Court. These are lifetime appointments. So if you look at this article from New York Times, June 20th, 2018, fewer births than deaths among whites in majority U.S. cities. So this is not bigotry or anything like this. I'm dealing with the evidence. This is coming from the U.S. Census Bureau. This is not me. This is coming from the U.S. Census Bureau. Deaths now outnumber births among white people in more than half the states in the country, demographers have found, signaling what could be a faster than expected transition to a future in which whites are no longer a majority of the American population. The Census Bureau has projected that whites could drop below 50% of the population around 2045, but now it's projected now 2043, the year 2043. A relatively slow moving change that has been years in the making. But a new report this week found that whites are dying faster than they are being born now in 26 states, up from 17 just 2 years earlier. And demographers say that shift might come even sooner. Okay, so this is not me. This is New York Times. This is coming from the U.S. Census Bureau. All right, so this is what this ties into the fear of the Browning of America, which also ties into more of trying to suppress the African American vote, control the federal bench, control the federal courts. Okay, all this ties into the vote. All this ties into the vote. There have been 433 bills that the Democrats in the House of Representatives passed in 2019. The majority of them, about 80%, are stuck in the Senate, being blocked by Moscow Mitch McConnell and Republicans in the Senate. Okay, you can't get those bills passed through the Senate and get them signed into law. They passed a bill to lower the cost of prescription drugs. They passed a bill in July of 2019 to increase the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $15 an hour by the year 2025. The bills that they're passing in the House of Representatives will have a tremendous impact on the lives of African Americans, but they're being blocked in the Senate. All this ties into the vote. If we just saw what happened with the Republican cowards in the Senate on Monday, when they on Wednesday when they acquitted Donald John Trump, okay, on two articles of impeachment, and they knew he was guilty. They knew he was guilty. Some of them, when they got up on the Senate floor and explained their vote, many of them said that what he did was wrong. It was inappropriate, but it didn't justify removing him from office. So if withholding aid from an ally of the U.S. and the aid was approved by Congress, and you're going to withhold this, so they will launch an investigation into your political rival, and you want them to announce the investigation during an interview on CNN to harm your political rival, okay? You are interfering, you're bringing foreign intervention into a presidential election. If that does not meet the standard of removal from office, and this is the second time you've done it, and you're using the weight of the presidency to do this, if that doesn't meet the standard for removal from office, I don't know what is, because the biggest fear that the founding fathers had was, one, a president controlled by a foreign adversary, and that's Trump, because he's controlled by Vladimir Putin in Russia. This is why he doesn't say anything negative about Russia. This is why he doesn't say anything negative about Putin. He openly, and when you read the Mueller report, okay, he openly welcomed help from Russia, and he got it, okay? And there were over 100 contacts, it's really about 140 contacts that the Trump campaign and transition team had with Russia. So you have to read the Mueller report, especially volume 1 of the Mueller report. This is the edition from the Washington Post with supporting annotation. You get that from Amazon.com. It's like $10, okay? Or you can go to NBCnews.com and just search for Read Mueller Report. You can read it free there, but this is a lot of additional information. Go to NBCnews.com or CBSnews.com, ABCnews.go.com, and just search for Read Mueller Report. They have the full report there. But you read volume 1, and I tell people read volume 1, pages 22 through 40, because in the Mueller report, it talks about how the Russians targeted African Americans with a disinformation campaign. Okay, so when we look at what just happened with the U.S. Senate, and we saw that senators like Lamar Alexander of Tennessee, who's retiring at the end of the year, and he should, he said that Donald Trump's actions were inappropriate. He said there's no need for more evidence to prove something that has already been proven, and that does not meet the United States Constitution's high bar for an impeachable offense. It is an impeachable offense because it's an abuse of power. That is the highest impeachable offense. That's what a high crime is. It's an abuse of power, because federal criminal statutes didn't exist in 1787 when the Constitution was written, and 1788 when it was ratified by the state legislature. Federal criminal statutes didn't exist. So a high crime was a violation of the public trust or an abuse of power. That was the ultimate impeachable offense based upon the view from the founding fathers, the drafters of the Constitution, the 39 drafters and signers of the Constitution. So when you listen to these cowards like Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, or Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, or Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, every last one of these Republicans who voted to acquit Trump know that if President Barack Obama did the same thing, they would have voted to remove him from office. They know this, but they're cowards, and they fear Trump's retribution because Trump is crazy, and he's vindictive, and they're too cowardly. Only one had some integrity, and that was Senator Mitt Romney of Utah, and he's not up for re-election in 2024. He knows he's going to get retribution, but he's not up for re-election in 2024. You got about 20 of these Republican senators up for re-election, in 2020, and all of them have to be voted out of office. Because you can't get the bills that the House is passing, you can't get those passed through the majority of them, you can't get passed through the Senate. Because they're being blocked in the Senate, and they're being blocked by Moscow Mitch McConnell. Moscow Mitch McConnell of Kentucky is up for re-election. All this deals with the vote. All this deals with the vote. Economic empowerment and politics, they work together. But economic empowerment don't go in the voter booth and vote these jackasses out of office. So we have to understand strategy. We have to understand how they are blocking bills that will help us. We have to understand the damage that is being done and who's doing it. Okay. So, and as I explained, I do radio here in Detroit. As I explain to people, election day is the day that you have an opportunity to fire the people you keep calling the radio shows every day complaining about. That's your day to fire the people you keep calling the radio shows every day complaining about. But so we don't understand how all this ties to the 15th Amendment, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Shelby County versus Holder Supreme Court case 2013, the gutting of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, 14 new states have a new voter ID laws in the 2016 election, 868 fewer polling places to vote at in the 2016 election, 1,700 fewer polling places today because of Shelby County versus Holder 2013, 59.6% of African Americans voted in the 2016 election, 7 percentage point drop from 2012. Okay, all this is tied together. All of this is connected. So politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, the adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. So when we talk about protecting the right to vote, it ain't just about going into a voting booth and voting for somebody. This has wide-ranging ramifications, understanding how laws and policies impact every aspect of our life, from the water we drink to the air we breathe to the food we eat. And politics creates the environment, the business environment that businesses operate within. All right, so everybody share this broadcast. Hope to see you Saturday at Nandi's Knowledge Cafe in Highland Park, Michigan, it's right inside of Detroit, 71 Oakman Avenue, Highland Park, Michigan, 71 Oakman Avenue in Highland Park, Michigan. Saturday, February 8th, 2020, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Nandi's Knowledge Cafe. I'll be doing a presentation for African American History Month, dealing with Black migration, 1619 to 2019. We'll deal with African Americans and the vote. This is the 150th anniversary of the 15th Amendment of 1870. This is also the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote as well. And we'll deal with this year, and African Americans and the vote is also this year's annual theme for African American History Month. Okay, so we have this information at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. I'm on our website right now, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll talk about Black migrations as well. And we'll talk about the Great Migration, also 1950 to 1970. And we definitely have to talk about Dr. Carter G. Woodson, okay? All of my DVD lectures are available at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Our website connects you to our YouTube channel, everything. I have a 6 DVD bundle pack, Black Migrations, 1619 to 2019. And in this bundle pack, you get my presentation dealing with the history of Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865, and why it was Emancipation Day, not Independence Day, but I dealt with 40 Acres and a Mule, General Order number 3, dealt with Dr. King's Poor People's Campaign and the day Dr. King met Malcolm X. Also, my presentation, Black Migration, 1619 to 2019, from the birth of a nation to the Red Summer, 1919, the Great Migration and the Detroit Race Riot in 1943. This other one here I did in May 11th, 2019, African Americans in America before Native Americans, Columbus, or slavery, from Kemet to Wakanda. This deals with the ancient African presence in the Americas, especially in this land, going back tens of thousands of years ago. the little known history of why African Americans switched from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party, the Southern Strategy in 1928, civil rights, Great Migration. So this deals with a chronology, a history, and why we switched from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. And contrary to popular belief, it was not because of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 or the Voting Rights Act of 1965, because by 1960, 2/3 of African Americans had already switched over to the Democratic Party. When Black men dominated horse racing and how an organized effort forced them out, because we used to dominate horse racing. The first Kentucky Derby, in the first Kentucky Derby, 13 out of the 15 jockeys were African American. The first Kentucky Derby was won by this brother here in the middle, last name Lewis, that's Oliver Lewis. He won the first Kentucky Derby in 1875, was 19 years old. You got Jimmy Winkfield. He won the Kentucky Derby in 1902. You have Isaac Murphy. So brothers used to dominate horse racing, but we were forced out of it, okay? We were forced out of horse racing. And then also you get 6 principles of political self-defense, understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans. There are actually 2 presentations on there. So that's at our website. We have that in digital download format and DVD, Black Migration 1619 to 2019. That's on sale. It's like $50, okay? And then we have my 15 DVD bundle pack, Michael Imhotep Black History 15 DVD bundle pack is a lot of my lectures, and so that's on sale right now also. That's $100, is like a $250 value, okay? We have the hidden colors, bundle packs, all that stuff also, okay? So check out our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Yeah, we dominated horse racing. We were pushed out of it. We were running the 3 main, the 3 main horse races, the Kentucky Derby, with Belmont Stakes, things like that. And then we were also winning in Europe as well. Okay, Bacon's Rebellion, 1675, 1676 in Virginia. Bacon's Rebellion, so the term white starts being used basically about 1681 in the colonies. Prior to that, in general, the Europeans were referred to as English or Christians. They weren't referred to as white in the 13 British colonies. All right, everybody, be sure to follow us on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP on YouTube. Also follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. Listen to our Sunday night show, the African History Network show, Sundays 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. to Superstation WFDF. We broadcast on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. We put the videos up on our YouTube channel also. And then all these shows and broadcasts are in audio podcast format as well. So at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, just click on listen to podcasts, and it takes you to our Blog Talk Radio page. But we're on 8 different podcast platforms. You can read all of my articles here as well. Click on read articles. But here's the information here about our radio show and podcast. So just click on listen to podcasts. And we have about 1,000 audio podcasts going back to 2010. But I'm on 8 different podcast platforms. So wherever you get your podcast from, search for The African History Network Show, The African History Network Show. We're on Stitcher, iTunes, Castbox, Acast, FM Player, TuneIn, and some other platforms as well. Okay, I will be speaking in Chicago at Chicago State University. Cassiopeia just sent me a text. So I'll be speaking at Chicago State University for the Black Malls Ujamaa Marketplace for African American History Month. That is the 15th, Saturday, February 15th. And I think that I forgot what time it's going on. It's we'll get it up on our website. She's going to be on my show Sunday night. It is, I think it's noon to 6, something like, what is time is it? I think it's 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., something like that. Let me try to pull this up here. I forgot the exact time. I'm all over the place. But I'll be there Saturday, February 15th. Okay, Chicago State University. I'll be a vendor. I'll be speaking there as well. And then on the 16th, Saturday, February 16th, I will be speaking at St. Francis Baptist Church. This is 2020. St. Francis Baptist Church. I'll be speaking 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. St. Francis Baptist Church is, I think that's 7021 West Warren Avenue in Detroit. Okay. So I'll come back, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Chicago State University, okay, for the Black Mall. And we'll get a flyer up on our website also, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, about that as well. All right. Hey, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Remember, right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace. Also, if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, email me at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, I know I'm speaking at Hartford Memorial Baptist Church in Detroit, Saturday, February 22nd, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'm speaking at Christ Temple Church in Detroit, Sunday, February 23rd. What time is that? 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. That's in Westland. Sorry, that's in Westland. Christ Temple Church in Westland, 29124 Eaton Street in Westland. Speaking for the NAACP, Thursday, February 27th, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. out in Grosse Pointe. Grits and Politics is coming up at Greater Emmanuel Church, Saturday, February 29th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. There's Brother Keith Williams. I'm on the board of Grits and Politics, so I'll be on the panel there as well. So I still have some dates open. So contact me, customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, or you can call us 313-462-0003, okay? All right, right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Talk to you next time. Peace.